Hi, and welcome to the farm. I'm Katja Williams, the rural mum, and today we're talking with Raine. You've married the farmer. Now what? Hi, Raine.
Hi, how are you going?
I'm well, thank you. Thank you for joining us here today. Can you please start by telling us a little bit about yourself, your family, and how you ended up on farm?
All right, well, thank you very much, firstly, for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. So I grew up actually on a crocodile farm, which is a little bit different, I suppose, to most other farming operations. And my parents, I guess they developed it from scratch and created a business and lived there for 26 years. So that was quite different. I was always the odd one out at school because I didn't come from a beef operation or a cattle station. I was from a crocodile farm. So that was a bit odd, but anyway, I loved it. And that was here in the Northern Territory. So I've lived in the Northern Territory my whole life, and I haven't ever really moved very far from Katherine, which is sort of our most central town. My husband is born and bred from Gundawindi in Queensland, and he grew up sort of on a mixed farming property and moved up to the Northern Territory as a jackaroo on a cattle station, worked his way up to head stockman, and now together we run a contract mustering business in the Northern Territory. So most of our work is in the Territory, and we do occasionally cross the border and do a little bit over in WA as well. So we're based in a small town called Timber Creek. That's where we live. And we also lease 30,000 acres just outside, just on the edge of town. My main role is to stay home and operate that. And my husband goes out and runs the contracting side of it. And together we have two little kids through quite a few hard years of IVF, but we've got a 2-year-old daughter, Hallie, and our 1-year-old son, Sterling. So that also keeps us busy in between everything else.
Absolutely. Sounds like an incredible operation that you're both running there. And what a wealth of knowledge to be coming from a crocodile farm. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? Because as you said, that is quite unique. So what did the days look like on the farm there?
So it was a very repetitive sort of job, I suppose, running the farm every morning. It's quite intensive in a way that you require high hygiene standards for the crocodiles too. So every morning we wash the pens out with sort of quite high pressure hoses, and then prepare meat for the crocodiles every night. So that had to be minced every afternoon, and vitamins and stuff put through the meats as well. And then the crocs get fed in the evenings. The water and the environment had to be sort of kept at a certain temperature. So, it was quite intensive in maintaining all of that. And our stock came from the eggs. So we would go out into the wild using helicopters mostly, sometimes boats and airboats, but the majority of our collection was done with helicopter and slinging underneath the helicopter to collect the crocodile eggs.
Yeah.
And then bringing them back to the farm, cleaning the eggs up, and then putting them in an incubator, and then I guess raising them from a newborn hatchling right up into what we called kind of a wiener crocodile, which was about 1 metre in length. We did run an abattoir for a few years. It just was a bit difficult because we were quite isolated. The farm was situated about 600 kilometres sort of southwest of Darwin, so it was really hard for marketing. It was hard to get skins tanned, sell the skins, sell the meat, all of that. So a sort of market to supply weaner crocodiles to the other crocodile farms opened up, and then that's sort of what my parents specialised in. So we'd hatch them, raise them till they got to a weaner size, and then would sell them as livestock then to the other crocodile farms in Darwin and across in Queensland, in Townsville.
Yeah, that's incredible. What a great childhood.
Yeah, it was pretty cool childhood, I suppose. Even just the location, we lived on the edge of the Victoria River, so we'd go fishing in the afternoons or in the morning, whatever suited, sort of thing. I had horses, so I'd go riding, on my own. I'm an only child, so I could just sort of do whatever I wanted, and I love that freedom. It was so awesome.
Let's take a break in today's episode to talk to you about today's supportive link, Didi Miru, which means Women in Agriculture. It's women supporting women, mentoring of new Jillaroos, as well as supporting Australian made and owned. Follow them on Facebook and Instagram. Now back to today's episode.
Awesome.
Absolutely. And how was the transition when you did get, what you were after and transitioning to a beef main role? Tell me about that transition. How did that happen?
So I suppose when I left boarding school, I moved back home. I was studying my private pilot's license for a fixed wing. So I was working for my parents so that I could have the time to study and save some money to do that. So I worked at home for about 2 years, and then I took a job as a first year Jillaroo at Bunda Station up here in the Territory. And my best friend from primary school, her parents owned the property. So I guess I knew them. They were family friends, but I had no idea, I suppose, about cattle or the cattle industry. I didn't know the difference between a steer or a heifer or a bull or anything, just that they had 4 legs pretty much. And it was different, I guess, but I loved it. And my position was a stud groom. So I was mainly, I guess, looking after the stud cattle for sale, and also for the horses. I had a stock horse stud there as well. So yeah, it was, I guess, on a smaller scale, I was learning because half was horse, which that was the main draw card for me. I was a bit mad at my horses, so that was why I went there. But I also wanted to learn about the cattle. And yeah, I guess that's where it all kicked off. I was a first year Jillaroo there, and then I moved into a contracting crew and then worked on some other cattle stations, and then got back into contracting again. So yeah, I guess it was so much for me to learn, but yeah, it was great. Everyone was so good at teaching me the ropes, and I remember getting smoked by cows in the yards all the time. I was always injured, covered in bruises and cuts, and I'd have a swollen ankle or something. I was always injured, but you just had to suck it up and keep working through it, I guess, and push through. And I look back and it was great, a great introduction into the industry for sure.
Yeah. Did you find that you had some transferable skills from your childhood on the crocodile farm to the beef cattle?
Your work ethic's still the same, doesn't matter what sort of farm you come off, I guess. And your animal husbandry, I guess, too. You're always putting the animals first, so making sure, troughs are clean, waters are clean, everything's well watered, well fed, all of that, I guess, I could obviously take across from crocodile farming to cattle farming. And I suppose caring for the horses and bringing them in each day and keeping them fed and well groomed and things like that. So we had some sale horses, so I had to get them all fit and presentable and things for a sale. So I suppose there was a couple of little things like that I was able to utilize, I guess.
Do you remember when you reflect back on that time, was there anything that really stood out as a big or steep learning curve?
I remember we were yarding up some cattle one day, and one of the boys, we were walking the cattle in, and one of the boys had said, "Oh, do you want to trot up ahead and set the yards up?" And our boss had said he was going to set them up, but I thought I'll just go up there and double check. And I just sort of have a quick squeeze, and I was like, yeah, the yards are fine. We yarded up, but of course the gates on the other side were open, so the cattle went in the yards and straight out the other side. So that was a pretty steep learning curve. And always check your gates, I suppose,
Cool.
double check them. Yes,
Yeah.
and now I guess I know that that's probably one of the bigger things that you probably should know. And then just skills also, like fencing, like your basic repairs on fencing, and riding a motorbike, because I'd never really ridden a motorbike before, just a horse person. So yeah, that was interesting. And because I guess I was there in the stud, it was really interesting to learn how to try and make the cattle quiet, ready for a sale and stuff. So I remember we had this one bull who was going to be like the feature bull at the sale for the year, and my boss put him in the horse stables, and he's like, you need to make this bull quiet by August. And I just thought it was mad. It terrified me. I wouldn't go in the stables with it. I used to, like, if I had to move him into a stable so I could clean it out, I'd let him into the laneway and try and chase it out with a broom. I was terrified of this bull. And by the time the sale date came around, the bull was that quiet I could ride it bareback around the paddock and stuff. So I guess that was a huge achievement, but learning the steps and quietening them down, the sale cattle down on a stud level for a stud sale was, yeah, pretty cool. Which is probably great learning. I mean, we're predominantly Brahmins up here in the territory, but I've actually used those skills. Like, I've never worked on a stud again, but I've used those skills quite a lot in actually helping other friends and stuff who are like, oh, you know, we've got cattle that we want to get ready for sale. What do we do? So yeah, it was good that I was then able to pass on my newfound knowledge on to others.
And so when you were starting your contracting business with your husband, tell us a little bit about the process from the thought to fruition. How did you set that up?
Started the business before we were together. So he'd only been probably operating for 1 or 2 years before I joined him. And he started the business with a friend of his. So they were in partnership. And I think their main thought process was just my husband's never really wanted to just have a manager's position on a station. He's sort of, never really been driven by that. I always wanted, I guess, to run his own business in a way. And I think he thought that there was definitely an upcoming market for that. Contractors were just starting to become pretty popular up here at that stage. So I guess, like any business, when you're starting out, you sort of start small. So they just had quite a small crew of people, like 2 or 4 people, and they'd do a lot of weaner education and some smaller mustering jobs, or just topping up stock camps here and there with people. So that was how it started, and I guess, it's grown quite a bit.
So once you joined Raine, both in the relationship as well as in the business, can you tell me your role and how that's adapted over the years, especially now that you have kids?
Yeah, as I said, I guess I must have come in when the business was maybe 2 or 3 years old. Originally, my partner wasn't that keen on it to start with, but you know, we didn't get to see each other very often if that wasn't going to happen, sort of thing, I guess. And eventually he admitted he needed the help, so that was nice. So my role, I guess, originally I was at the time studying my diploma of equine tactile therapy, which is basically physiotherapy for horses. And so I said to him, I will come along and be your stock camp cook if I can keep studying. And I only had, I think, 6 months sort of left of my study. I remember the first few months it was fine. I was studying and cooking and it was all working out okay. And the study went out the window, never finished my diploma, and I was so close. And I guess, transitioned in full-time into the stock camp then. It wasn't easy, like we would argue a lot. A lot of steep learning curves, I suppose, in both on a relationship aspect and a business aspect, I suppose. You know, I think probably we both learnt a lot off each other in a way. I'd say probably picked a few things up from me and vice versa. And I guess it worked pretty well. So initially the business, as I said, probably, operated with about 4 people. Now, like the last few years, we've run 3 stock camps and we employ 25 people. Pretty big jump. And we sort of never said we'd ever run more than 1 stock camp, because we were like, it's our name on the line, I guess, and our reputation. So we said, we'd never run more than 1 stock camp. It would just be the one we ran, and that was it. And well, here we are, branched out, and we've had 3 stock camps going, but we've had some pretty awesome head stockmen running the cruise for us, which has been great. Yeah, just sort of start taking a little bit of a step back and working out what's next for us, I suppose, so that Potter can be home a little bit more with us as a family and gets to see the kids grow up and stuff. Yeah. But we don't want to give it up altogether, because we believe that it is just the ideal environment for the kids growing up. They love going out into the contracting camp. We just got back on Sunday 2 days ago from spending the weekend out there, and just love, playing in the dirt. We went down to the creek for a swim. Hallie gets to ride her horse, which she's really getting into her horses now. But she only enjoys riding if there's a purpose. It's no good just poking around. If you're behind a mob of cattle, she'll probably nearly go all day, and she's not quite 3 years old yet. So she's pretty driven like that. So yeah, they love it. We love seeing them in that environment. And so we still want to, I guess, keep our foot in the door a little bit with that, so they can experience all that as well.
Raine, what did you find was some of the tactics between when you started the business and what you use now that really helped run that together and keep the peace and keep the communication, and what were those learnings?
Yeah, I guess definitely communicating more. Don't just keep your thoughts to yourself. I mean, it probably creates a lot of arguments speaking your mind sometimes too, but at the end of the day, I think it's justified. Yeah, definitely that. I guess we learned, we've also tried to develop a better camping setup. So when we first started, when Potter first started, he literally lived in a horse boat. And then we slowly have upgraded it to a little gooseneck and a big gooseneck. And I think, when we first, our first setup, we were setting up a camp, we'd have everything crammed into the back of this gooseneck. So we'd have to pull up and we'd have to pull out tables and chairs and freezers and fridges and set up a barbecue and a hot plate and string up a tarp in the trees. And it was just, it took hours. And if you arrive somewhere late at night, that was a huge task setting the camp up. Whereas over the years, Potter, I guess, has developed a better setup within the camp, so that it only takes an hour to set everything up. So we don't have to drag a gas bottle across the flat and hook it up to a barbecue. We've got that all in a shipping container now, so you literally just turn the gas on and you go. We've got pull-out barbecues and pull-out fridges, and everything's, I guess we have a more portable kitchen now, not just the bush kitchen. So that's probably been a pretty big one, I suppose. On probably more a staff level, we used to, employ backpackers and less experienced people, and never used to bother getting reference checks on people. And I think we've got bitten on the backside a couple of times by that. So, we always call a few references from employees now and do a bit more homework in that aspect. And then I suppose that's definitely lifted the quality of our staff, which obviously then lifts the quality of your work. So, yeah.
Was there anything that surprised you, Raine, about moving to where you are now and the way things operate?
Because I grew up on quite an isolated property anyway, because the Crocodile farm where I grew up was on the other side of the Victoria River, so it flooded every wet season and we were stranded. So isolation, I've always been familiar with that. Distances, I've been familiar with that. Yeah, so I think I was going into staff management. I guess that's been a huge probably adjustment, because as I was saying, isolation was not a problem that that's quite natural to me, I guess, after my upbringing. But working with the larger groups of people and managing large groups of people have probably been pretty challenging. And that, I think, is just something that we've just sort of had to learn along the way, and probably try and develop a bit of a balance with work and a social life. You know, we employ young people, you know, they're between, say, 18 and 25-year-olds, and they can work hard, but they need to be able to party hard as well. So, you know, allowing them that time and giving them that, I guess, helps their work ethic in the long run and things. We also employ a lot of people who are really keen on horses, because a lot of our mustering work is done on horseback. So for that reason, it seems that we employ a lot of girls. We have probably 95% of our applicants every year are girls, which is great. But I think that is mainly due to the fact that we are so horse orientated. And so being able to supply them with work with the horses is a huge one as well. Like, they love being able to do that. If we have a job where it's, you know, just yard work, or maybe it's just motorbikes, then everyone seems to crack the sads a bit because they want to go back to their horse work. So I guess, yeah, just trying to make sure that our staff are happy, and that, you know, I guess makes the business function a little bit better.
Yes. And Raine, what's been the biggest hurdle while you've been out there?
Because work is so seasonal, probably finances is a huge one. You know, our mustering season is March through till sort of November, December, depending on the rain. So our season is totally dependent on the weather. But, you know, there's 4 to 6 months there that we don't have work, and which I guess, you know, is primarily a lot of farming operations, because it is seasonal stuff. So for us, the wet season, when we don't work, we are maintaining vehicles, upgrading equipment. At home here, we're trying to get on top of all the jobs that we haven't been able to do because Potter's been away. So get on top of our fencing and our own mustering and things. And so, of course, all of that costs money, but we don't have income coming in because we're not out mustering for clients. So that's probably a pretty big hurdle for us, is just learning to manage those finances a bit better, to make sure that from a seasonal aspect we can balance through the year. I mean, we also use that time on our lease property here to put in our infrastructure. So, you know, our agreement is to put in improvements, so putting in fencing and waters and new assemblies and gateways and things. So, yeah, and once again, that's tied back to finances as well. But I guess when we took on the lease block too, we probably didn't realise how difficult it was to get those improvements done, purely probably based on our time, because Potter's away so much, and as much as I like trying to get out and do as much as I can, I'm not really going to be able to put a new fence line in on my own or anything, or run out poly and install troughs and things like that. So that's been a pretty big challenge. It's been a slower journey than we probably anticipated. You know, I guess when we first got our lease, we thought, oh yeah, that'll be, you know, great. We'll get all these things in and, you know, get cattle together and things. But yeah, just those improvements have taken us a lot longer, and that's purely just because of our own time and finances. But you know, we always put obviously the clients come first. So we do all the other jobs for everybody else, and then if we have time spare here and there, we hook in and do our own.
Yeah. And you now do have your 2 beautiful kids there with you. So how was introducing them to the world and then to the business? As you say, you know, you bring them with you as well. So tell me a little bit more about that journey.
Yeah, so I think introducing children from a mother's point of view is a big shock to the system when you're so hands-on. it's probably taken me, I think, 3 years to learn it's okay to take a step back, I guess, or that my role is now different. For me, it's taken quite a while to make that adjustment.
Yeah.
And we have, always from the start of, when we first found out that I was pregnant, we always said, the kids will fit into our lives, not the other way around. They'll just sort of slot in and tag along with whatever we do. And we do try and do that as best we can, I suppose. So here at home, because I'm here for long stretches on my own while Potter's away mastering, I still, I guess, like currently some of the jobs that I'm doing is obviously doing the bore runs to check on bores and troughs and waters, checking on some fencing, and we're trying to repair some fencing that got washed away in the floods that we had last year. We've got horses. I've got broodmares in. We've got a stallion, so I'm trying to serve mares at the moment and feed them, and some yearlings. So they're just some of the tasks I do every day, and the kids, they just have to tag along. But because they've never known any different, they're fine with it. We've, I guess, made adjustments, like by getting, say, a kid's car seat and putting it in the buggy. And that's given me a lot more freedom, I guess, out on the block, so I can still get around with the kids doing jobs like that. It's safe to leave them in there if there's all the horses around. Or if I've got to go in the ute and check the waters, and they just have to tag along. I'm pretty into my routine, so I'm pretty strict on routine a fair bit, and I do try and pick times of the day that are going to work better with the kids, of course, to do those jobs. So, if I can do it while they're at creche, I will. Because, we've got a great little creche here in Timber Creek that the kids go to a few hours a day. If I can duck out there, I will. But I'm also working a small part-time job at the local school here as well. So on top of looking after the property and helping with the business, I do that. So for example, like if I want to go out and feed the horses, I normally pick it when it's Sterling's nap time, and he'll more likely fall asleep in the car, so that when I get out to the horses, he just sleeps in the aircon while I make up the feeds. And it's safer that way too, because at least I know he's not going to get trampled by the horses and have to have eyes in the back of my head and things like that. So I do try and, I guess, pick nap times and have the car seats to make life easier. But I guess they tag along. And then with our contracting business, it's much the same. If we go out to camp and I want to go on a muster, either Potter or if we have a camp cook working for us, one of them will have the kids in the Toyota on the tail of the mob, and I'll get to jump on a horse. And if the kids get hungry or need to be breastfed or something, I just trot back to the car and sort them out and then go back onto the mob. So, and for me, that's great. That's a great balance. I guess that's what fills my cup. So I love it when we can do that. And, I guess I love that the kids are part of it at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Raine, what would be your top advice for someone moving to a farm or into or moving into a stock camp contracting business for the first time?
I think definitely, get involved in your community. We're on a lot of camp draft committees, or not a lot, sorry, but we've been on a few different camp draft committees. We volunteer at a few of the camp drafts with our crew in the backyards or on the gates. I have also sort of been in the past run a couple of fundraisers for Dolly's Dream, which has been a big sort of night of dinner and entertainment and things like that. So I guess by joining committees and being involved in your community, it not only, I guess, benefits the community, but you then develop friendships, and that, of course, then helps you. Like, so because I am here at home, I guess, on my own a lot, it can be lonely, but I've met some other of the mums here in Timber Creek, and, you know, there's probably only another 3 or 4 families here, but it's been fantastic to be involved with them. And you know, the kids have allowed us to, I guess, develop those friendships. So, I mean, there's lots of different ways, whether it's with a committee, whether it's a mums and bubs group, whether you join my husband's on the local authority council group, so they have quarterly meetings. Yeah, I think that's really important. It's probably one of the most important things, because particularly if you're isolated, you know, even if you're moving out to a cattle station or a farm where, I guess, your community is harder to access, you know, I guess that's when, yeah, like if you have a hobby or a sport or something where you can get involved with people, it's just, I guess, to help find, you know, your group, your tribe, your village, whatever you want to call it. And if you have a bad day, it gives you someone to vent to, or, you know, I don't know, if you want to have a moan about your husband, then you can do that, or whatever. It's just surprising, I guess, by having that, how many people will have your back, you know, if something goes wrong, or if you're having a bad run or whatever. It's just nice to know, you know, I guess, that you've got those people on your side, and you can ring them at any time and things. So it just, yeah, it develops into really good friendships. And I think that that's probably just, yeah, the biggest piece of advice I could probably give when moving out bush, or, yeah, somewhere rural.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Raine, for joining us here of You've Married a Farmer, Now What? Thank you again.
Thank you.